Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.
What does a healthy, balanced lifestyle consist of? How should you eat? What exercise should you be doing? How many hours of sleep do we really need? Does too much water flush away all your vitamins? Should it be high carb, low fat, or high fat, low carb? The more research you do, the more confusing it gets, because there is so much information out there, and there are so many conflicting opinions. So how are we supposed to know? Stick around to explore the different approaches to health with us, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and let's try to figure out together what the heck being healthy really means. I am your host, Hazel Priscilla, and this is your weekly dose of Feed Me Honesty. Hello again, and thank you for tuning in to yet another one of our attempts to find the balance. The topic we chose to focus on today is gut health, a topic I haven't really ever explored until I started to do some research for this episode. And I can tell you this much, there is a lot more to it than I initially thought. I decided to invite my good friend David Houston to studio today because the two of us always seem to get caught in some sort of health conversation when we find ourselves in the same room, and he never fails to amaze me with his wide range of knowledge. David, welcome to Feed Me Honesty.
Hello, thanks for having me.
I think if the father of Western medicine, Hippocrates, claimed that all disease begins in the gut, then gut health is most certainly something worth talking about. Or what do you say, Dave?
I would definitely agree with Hippocrates on that one.
You'll have to agree with him.
Yeah, I think
he's the father of medicine. You can't disagree with him.
Yeah, I think it does. It is a little bit more complex than that because there are other factors such as genetics and.
And that was also long ago when he made the statement.
Yeah.
So he'll probably also, have something more to add to that right now.
But I think just generally speaking, I mean the gut. Sort of regulates most of your immune system and the functions of other organs. So when something's not happening right in your gut, generally your entire system is going to be
affected by it.
Is going to be affected by it. So I think there's quite a lot of truth in that statement. Yeah.
So I'm just going to do a real quick introduction before we move on to Dave's experiences regarding this topic. Clinical and holistic nutritionist Krista Orecchio teaches us that we have both good and bad bacteria in our guts, and we want to have about 85 to 90% good bacteria, but then you also need about 10 to 15% bad bacteria just to keep the immune system alert and strong and to make sure that it knows how to protect us. And it's when this balances out that we start to get sick. Luckily, according to WebMD, the good bacteria helps to keep the bad bacteria in check by multiplying so often that the unhealthy kind doesn't have space to grow. If it, however, happens that you have too much of a certain kind of bad bacteria in your gut, you're more likely to have gut health-related issues.
Yeah.
David, I know you were diagnosed with Candida. Can you tell us when you were diagnosed and what exactly being diagnosed with this disease means and entails? Because I've never even heard of it before.
Cool. So let me think. That was 2015. At the time, I was going through a lot of stress, a lot of work-related stress, burnout, a lot of emotional stress. I was just basically a bit of a wreck, and struggling with concentration, struggling with just feeling tired all the time. So I kind of got to a point where I just decided I have to look into what
do
this
something
is.
about it.
So I visited a functional health practitioner, which is kind of blending like a holistic and conventional medicine, which is a really nice blend. So I did some tests and I got a positive on Candida and also general diagnosis, which they call gut dysbiosis, which is basically what you just mentioned. It's imbalance. So like dysbiosis meaning sort of imbalance. So Candida is not actually a bacteria. Candida is actually a fungus that is present in
the gut.
In the gut. So everyone has it. It's a very important part of your whole functioning.
Is it called Candida? It's
called Candida albicans.
Oh, okay.
There's different strains of Candida, but the one that we most aware of that's diagnosed as Candida, we refer to that as Candida albicans.
Okay.
You also get Candida sort of that shows up externally, not just in the gut. I know women sometimes get Candida yeast infections.
Okay.
But
let me just quickly interrupt you. Why do they say you have Candida if we all have it? If we all have that?
Well, I think it's just like
how can you be diagnosed with something that we all have?
It's become a general buzzword. And the thing with Candida is it's also like it's definitely something that's overdiagnosed. I'll put something that, and it becomes this buzzword that like everyone, when you have like any symptom, people say like, yeah, it's probably Candida, and it's like now they're just using that word Candida as a thing to diagnose that you have Candida overgrowth in your gut.
Oh, so it's overgrowth. So is that the real?
So I guess when people are saying
call it Candida overgrowth,
they're talking about Candida overgrowth
because everyone has Candida. Yeah. Okay.
So as I was saying, it's an important part of your gut, but then when you have an imbalance in the system, you get it's like an opportunistic fungus. In other words, like if there's space,
I hear you. Then
it's going to grow, and it feeds on sugar. And carbohydrates, which is obviously a large part of many people's diet. So
I can imagine you had to cut that out, but we'll get to what you had to do to get over it later on.
So that was just a general diagnosis that I had this thing, and then I had to take some steps to like get myself back in balance. Basically, that's it. Yeah.
Okay, then to just share a bit more from my side of the things that I learned about the topic from doing a bit of my own research. Other issues that may be related to gut health are cholesterol, our emotions, and how our brains process information from our senses. Then scientists even say that changes in gut bacteria balance may play a role in diseases like autism, anxiety, and depression, as well as chronic pain. And studies on treating obesity are also exploring the link between unhealthy balance in your gut causing crossed signals from your brain when it comes to feeling hungry or full. Other symptoms that may further be related to the gut are headaches, exhaustion, and insomnia. And then last but not least, a study even showed that 54% of acne patients suffer from small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So yes, basically, we can already see that Hippocrates might just have been right about the fact that all disease begins in the gut. Now, Dave, if having gut issues is so detrimental to our health, can you share a bit of your journey to healing your gut with us? What action did you take, and what did you find worked the best for you?
So after I got that diagnosis, it's like a forced shift in your lifestyle. One of the actual nice things that some people say about Candida, just as a side note, is that some people say that it's like a teacher, because it shows you something that, like, when you get these symptoms, it's like a call to action. It's like something that, like, okay, now I'm feeling like really crap, and like what's going on, and it's like, okay, so now I have to take steps to rebalance my things.
But that's almost with all diseases or any like issue you have. It's always a teacher, or you know.
It's showing you what's in the way of you being like your best self really. So if you can look at it like that, I think that's a nice way to go about it. That sparked a change, and then with the functional medicine doctors, they obviously prescribe certain diets and supplements and stuff like that. As I mentioned before, Candida is a very like sugar hungry little critter, sugar and carbs, so you have to do quite a strict diet that cuts out sugar
entirely, or
pretty much entirely. There's some controversy around that diet, and like going too extreme on that diet will also cause stress
and other side effects and stuff.
I think we were discussing recently as well that also stress was one of the big factors of causing that.
So you can't have stress while trying to treat it.
The diet can also be very stressful, so it's a bit of a feedback loop. But anyway, the idea is that you want to get rid of the cat. You want to starve. You want to starve them so that they stop populating, and then you want to then remove them with certain herbal supplements like. For example, olive leaf or coconut oil is actually also very good for that.
So do you ingest it or?
Yeah, you just basically take like a tablespoon of. I used to wake up in the morning, take a tablespoon of coconut oil.
Will it be the same if you cook with it or something, or do you need to take it as like?
I think the idea is like generally like raw virgin like coconut oil, like sort of organic as possible.
So that helps to shrink it.
So that's like an antifungal. So it's got something in the coconut oil, which is called caprylic acid, which is an antifungal thing. So that would help. So then, as I said, the idea is that you're starving them of their like food source, and then you're putting something in that kills them off. Yeah. So you just got to address the diet, and like when you talk about cutting out sugar, you also start to realize how much things have sugar that you don't even know. Sugar. Like all of a sudden it becomes like, okay, like a bowl of white rice you wouldn't think of as sugar, but it's actually converting to sugar and spiking your glucose like almost immediately. So that keeps the imbalance, if you know what I mean, and it keeps the candida sort of going. So you have to be quite strict as much as possible.
And for how long is it just like an initial shock, or to get it to how long does it take to, for how long do you need to eat this way before you can go back to your old patterns, or you just start incorporating sugar and carbs again?
Well, I think the whole idea is that you don't go back to your old patterns. Okay. Obviously, but
just a more balanced way of
obviously
like every now and then.
It's a bit of an extreme diet. I don't personally think it's the best way. So what I sort of suggest and what I do as a long-term shift in
as like
diet
aftercare
is like generally what they call the paleo diet, which is just a great philosophy on eating as well as lifestyle and well-being, as to how our ancestors behaved and ate prior to agriculture. So before we had like large-scale monocrops and fertilizers and genetically modified organisms, we were just eating whole foods that were like fresh and recently alive. So they're full of enzymes. And it's not super restrictive. It is in a way, but like that's just cutting out most grains, and this stuff like dairy, as well as like anything that's based on like modern sort of agriculture. Yeah. So I use that as like a template as just a philosophy of eat whole, clean foods, as much like lots of veggies and meat if you eat meat, eggs, stuff like that. Just like basically the idea is whole clean foods, and then from there you can diverge into like
experiment with other things.
No, you can
on occasion.
Yeah, on occasion you can slip up. So you don't want to be too strict. It's like
don't want to cause yourself stress with your diet.
When it's your birthday, have that piece of chocolate cake, for example, because it's like. It's not going to kill you,
On that note, I caught this man eating a birthday cake last night because it was his birthday yesterday.
I had two slices of that apple pie.
I had a second one.
Smothered in sugar-rich cream.
It was so good. But,
so sometimes you just gotta do that.
Do that. But happy birthday, Dave, from us at Feed Me Honesty and all the listeners. By the time this is gonna be out in the world, it's not going to be your birthday anymore, so enjoy it while you can.
Much older,
It's his birthday weekend. Are you happy to move on or do you have more to say about like the diet and stuff like that?
I could talk for a whole hour on
ages.
That, but I think that's just generally, as I said, like one of the main shifts is just incorporating a clean, unprocessed diet.
A lifestyle change as well, not just like following a diet for 2 or 3 weeks.
It's just a shift in mentality when you start to eat foods that are like fresh and full of life, full of energy. They've just recently been picked, so it's like that. Yeah.
And I can imagine that it becomes easier. Like if you ate a lot of sugar and carbs in the beginning, to cut that out might be difficult. But for a while, if you stopped eating sugar for a long time, to go back to eating it, I feel like, let's say you had 3 sugars in your coffee and now you want 1. To go back to 3 is like, it tastes so terrible. You're like, how did I ever drink 3 sugars in my coffee?
Also the thing is that it makes it a lot easier is once you start to realize how you feel when you eat healthy.
There's a reward.
That becomes a reward greater than the like instant fix of like a sugar rush, because then you start to associate like feeling crappy with
sugar
and feeling good with eating. So it's like that little shift in your brain. It does take time, but the idea of feeling good like overwrites the craving for for the
sugar and whatever.
Yeah.
I just have one question before we move on to the next thing. How many weeks or months did you notice did it take before it started to shrink and the balance was restored?
I would say it took quite a while, but that's also because timing wise, I'd also just like recently after that I went traveling. And as much as you can try when you're traveling, like I was solo traveling around South America, and it's just not possible without an enormous amount of stress or starvation to like really like control your diet. And I wasn't feeling great during that time either. So it was probably about a year until I started feeling like much better.
The research I did also said at least 6 months, 3 to 6 months before you can actually heal.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's also an ongoing process. Like I wouldn't say that I'm like I still have digestive symptoms, and sometimes I feel great for a while. Sometimes I go down. So it's just like as I said, it has to be a constant thing. You can't just like prescribe this pill and do this diet for 2 weeks and you sort it. It's more of like a general
a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Okay. An interesting fact that I quickly want to throw in again is something I heard Krista say in her video, Heal the Gut, Heal Your Life. She said we are more microbial than we are human because we have 10 times the amount of microbial cells that we have human cells. I don't know if you've heard about that, but I thought it was really cool. Which means we are actually bacteria learning to be human and not the other way around, you could argue. When you therefore have harmony between the human world and the microbial world, you create peace within the individual, and that's a way to create peace within the world. So, David, I know you as a person who always strives for individual and world peace. So I think now is perhaps a good time for you to share a few peace practices with our listeners that can also assist with not only gut health, but with maintaining a healthy, balanced lifestyle in general.
Yeah, sure. Just on that bacteria note, I read a cool article the other day that had a fact. It's something like 100, you have like 100 trillion like bacteria in your system, and it's like so hard to even comprehend how large that number is. And he gave an example of like if you were to take a dollar bill or 100 rand notes and put that like one after each other 100 trillion times, you would like make a line as far as our sun, and still have more to go back.
I thought you were going to say around South Africa or around the world even.
It's a stupidly high, 100 trillion is a stupidly high number. So basically there are your body is like basically bacteria with a little bit of human in it. So
so now that quote of Hippocrates makes even more sense. Like if you have so much bacteria, of course an imbalance of that is going to mess up everything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so peace practices.
So peace practices.
Well, I don't know if there's a better word for it.
Well,
I wouldn't
quite say peace practices.
To reduce your stress, because obviously that's a big cause of.
So the biggest influence for me actually after even after diet and even before diet. Like the main thing that has helped me has been stress management. Stress is one of the leading causes of bacterial imbalance.
And all other diseases,
basically,
like everything.
Yeah, stress is a super killer, and we are generally in a constant state of stress.
And we're so tolerant with it. We're so tolerant with being stressed.
Yeah.
We're not like, I don't want to be stressed anymore, or I want to do something about this. We're like, I'm stressed. Everyone's stressed.
We're addicted
it's okay.
To it. It's an addiction. It's like full on And once you start to see that in other people, it can be quite difficult because it's like...
You want to help them?
But it's just like... you just kind of don't understand, even though I have been there myself, but it's like this addiction to stress and success and all this pressure of like trying to be something and making money.
Yeah.
Like I get the world is stressful, but you need to be very clear on the impact of stress on your body. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad-ass candida diagnosis, you're going to get all sorts of other diseases, and that's going to yeah, it's not going to be fun.
And I like something that I really strive for is quality of life, like not quantity, because if you're so stressed out, what is your quality of life? Even if you achieve something great and you didn't have fun in the journey, or like you're just stressed out about it, or you are already thinking about what's the next thing I need to achieve, then even if you have all these awards and these big achievements and you like reached your goals, where's your quality of life?
Exactly.
You know, so then I'd rather not have any achievements, but have that's the biggest achievement, is having quality of life and being happy. Like I think very little achievers are happy. So what did the achievement bring them?
Yeah, I think that's just part of it's one of the conditions of the human mind or the ego, is like you want to chase something. And it's like just always this fulfilling, and I think
which is not that bad. I mean, it's good to chase something.
It has its place,
yes.
but if it comes at the cost of your quality of life and health,
and your health,
it's just very important to start to become aware of the impact of that. And that's why I also said, like before, when they say Candida as a teacher or any disease as a teacher, because it's like, okay, you've got a symptom or you've got these diseases, and it's like, why have you got that? The thing is showing you something.
Yes.
And if you actually focus on that and address that, then your life will be better. That's the thing. It's like when you stop stressing about all these things, your life will be better. From a little bit of a science point of view, it's quite simply like when you're in a stress state, your digestive system is not functioning properly. And that's from a very practical biological reason. If there's a lion chasing you, you don't need to be digesting. Your body's energy is going to be redirected to vital organs, to pumping
survival,
blood, to pumping your heart. So you don't need to be digesting a cheeseburger in that moment, for example. So, and that's unfortunately the modern, like the chronic stress of like a modern lifestyle, is that we're operating in a chronic state of stress. It's not as intense as the lion chasing us, but it's still your body, your nervous system is in a fight or flight mode. So your digestive system won't be functioning, just straight up biology. So like if you work on reducing your stress,
how? That's the thing. How did you reduce your stress?
So basically what I did was I started practicing yoga more frequently. I'd already been doing a bit of that, and I do other practices like Tai Chi and meditation, breathing exercises. Those are all part of the same general field of like working on changing your stress response in your body. So when I was talking about fight or flight, you want to be in a state of rest and digest. And so digest being the key word there. So it's like when your body is relaxed and when your mind is at ease, your systems are going to then go to work on like healing, and
they need to
do what they need to do. So I picked up a meditation practice, and I just tried to get into the habit of doing like breathing exercises. I think that's one of the most important things, breathing exercises.
I wanted to say breathing because sometimes you feel like, oh, I don't have time to meditate, which is a lame excuse. But if you have that excuse, if you literally if you breathe in shorter than you breathe out, it slows down your heart rate, and then that sends the signals to your body, because let's say you breathe in for 3 seconds and then you breathe out for 5 or 6 seconds, then it immediately slows down your heart rate, and you have to take 3 or 5 of those breaths to all immediately feel your whole body responding to that and be okay, I'm relaxed. It gets this signal you're telling your body, I'm actually relaxed even though I'm not, and it believes you and it starts to relax.
Exactly. So it can actually be just that simple as focusing on your breath, and that's what meditation and yoga and stuff like that teaches you, is becoming super aware of your breath, breathing in and breathing out sort of very deeply and into your belly. And
and meditation also helps you with putting things into perspective. I feel you are not necessarily stressed about work or achievements or things like that when you're meditating. That disappears into the background and other things kind of become important.
Well, very importantly, it helps you to gain self-awareness, and that's a super powerful tool, because then you can start to become aware, and especially in the concept of dieting. when you can practice self-awareness, like strengthen that muscle of attention, you also become super aware of your own body, and like you can actually notice when you've eaten something and your body's reacting to it. So, and then it's just a signal, that's interesting, maybe I shouldn't eat that.
Yes.
So you start to then be able to like diagnose yourself and treat yourself because you become...
Your body is so smart, it knows exactly what's wrong.
Exactly.
And it knows what it needs, so you just listen to it.
Yeah.
Someone said last night at your party, eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired.
I think that was me.
You said that. We overcomplicate things, and like obviously there's more to it than just doing that, and we have responsibility. We can't always just sleep when we're tired, and we can't always just eat when we're hungry or whatever, but we can simplify things for ourselves. I think we just shouldn't overthink everything.
Yeah, definitely. One last thing I'd like to add on that is just how you eat. I mentioned about the stress response and just becoming aware. If you're trying to eat when you're in a stressed state, you're not going to digest that food properly.
Yeah.
And the undigested food then thus feeds the bad bacteria.
So is it better to then not eat when you're stressed?
Well,
or to first meditate before you eat?
No, generally yes, but like if you I mean, you still got to eat and you have to eat. But generally the idea is like when you're about to eat, and this is where the meditation and mindfulness comes in. It's just about like stopping before you eat.
Yeah.
And then just taking like five breaths in and out, just to, as we said, to switch your nervous system over. So now it's like just flipping the switch onto like a rest and digest state.
Yeah.
And that will help. And then just eating slowly and mindfully.
Yeah, I just wanted to say like chewing your food and actually like sitting down and eating, because so many people just stand and like take a few bites and then run off to the next thing, and then like the body is also stressed because it's like, oh, I need to get to the next thing, like just get this over with.
So yeah, just taking it slow and easy.
And enjoying your food.
Yeah,
okay, that's not a hard task.
And that's the most, like so many people don't even.
Some it is.
Yeah.
But for us, I know at least that's definitely not a hard task. We enjoy our food so much.
Yeah, within every bite there's like the potential of like supreme joy.
Heaven. Yeah.
So
okay. With that, I think we have come to the end of this episode. David, thank you so much for helping us come to a better understanding of this topic. We really appreciate and value your time and knowledge.
Cool. Such a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'm going to leave you guys with a psychology quote today that goes, always trust your gut. Your brain can be fooled and your heart is an idiot, but your gut doesn't know how to lie. Maybe just be sure to heal your gut first before you are so quick to trust it. Tune in again next week when I talk to nurse Dale Him about a very interesting part 2 twist to the Can and Cancer episode. And then I would quickly like to thank our engineer behind the glass, Alex Mayberg, for dedicating his time to us today. Have a balanced week and remember to be kind to yourself so that you can be kind to others too. Feed Me Honesty is a South African lifestyle podcast hosted by Hazel Priscilla and produced with the generous assistance of Blended Podcasts. Brought to you by Blended Audio.